All right, let's talk about a story that absolutely rocked the AI world. You know, things in AI move at lightning speed, right? But this was different. This wasn't just another step forward. It was a genuine shockwave. And it all started with the Chinese app that basically came out of nowhere and made everyone in tech question everything they thought they knew about building AI.
So what does a shockwave look like in financial terms? It looks like this: a negative $600 billion. That's how much the chip giant NVIDIA lost in a single day. We're talking about the largest one-day stock market loss in US history. And the trigger? Just one app. A single app from a company that, honestly, almost nobody had heard of before.
The venture capitalist Mark Andreessen, well, he nailed it. He called it AI's Sputnik moment. And that's such a perfect analogy. Think about it. When the Soviets launched Sputnik, it kicked off the space race overnight. This app did the exact same thing for AI. It lit a fire under everyone and started this new, super intense chapter in the race for AI dominance. The game had completely changed. So let's get into how this all went down. How did this Sputnik moment actually happen? Well, it all kicked off when this app, DeepSeek R1, just shot up to #1 on the US app charts. It felt like it came from absolute nowhere. And the team behind it, they made a claim that sounded almost impossible. Not only could their AI compete with the best in the world, but they built it for a tiny, tiny fraction of the cost. Okay, quick refresher, just so we're all on the same page. The tech at the heart of all of this, for DeepSeek, for ChatGPT, for all of them, is a large language model, or LLM. Think of it as the AI's brain. It's trained on a crazy amount of text to basically predict the next word in a sentence. That's how it understands and talks like a human. And this is the exact technology that just got turned on its head. And this really gets us to the core of the whole drama, the big fight that DeepSeek just kicked off. See, for the longest time, the US approach to AI, led by giants like OpenAI, was basically bigger is better. Just throw more data, more chips, more money at the problem, brute force it. But then DeepSeek showed up and asked this really dangerous question. What if you don't need all that? What if smarter engineering can actually beat raw power? So you've got these two totally opposite philosophies clashing. On one side, you have the US model. Bigger is better. That means giant data centers, endless rows of servers, just immense power consumption. Then on the other side, you have the DeepSeek model, smarter engineering. The idea that clever design can get you to the same place, or even further, without needing to build a digital empire. And when you look at the costs, I mean, it is just staggering. Look at this. OpenAI's big models, we're talking about a reported $5 billion to develop. Billion with a B. DeepSeek, they claimed they built their top-performing model for just $5.6 million. That's not just a discount. That's a rounding error for the other guys. It's a completely different universe of building AI. And here's the real kicker. This is the part that truly caused the panic. It wasn't just cheap. I mean, if it was a cheap, kind of crappy model, nobody would have cared. The shock was that DeepSeek R1 was actually beating OpenAI's models in head-to-head performance tests. It was cheaper and it was better. That's the combination that sent an earthquake through Silicon Valley. So, as you can imagine, a story like this doesn't stay just a tech story for long. It immediately blew up into a geopolitical issue. DeepSeek's sudden success was a huge moment in the US-China tech race. It completely shattered this comfortable assumption that a lot of people in the West had, that China was still years behind in building these advanced AI models. And with that realization came the alarm bells. Serious national security alarm bells. The US government started digging into the company's connections to Beijing. And a senior State Department official put it pretty bluntly, saying they believe DeepSeek was willingly providing support to China's military and intelligence. That's a heavy accusation. And those fears trickled down fast. It wasn't just government spooks who were worried. DeepSeek's own privacy policy was pretty clear. All user data gets processed on servers in China. So almost immediately, you saw big companies hitting the panic button, banning their employees from using the app. But you know how it is. People still wanted to use it. So you had smart users creating their own workarounds, trying to run the model locally on their own computers, just to keep their data from going back to China. Okay, so the impact was real and it was immediate. You've got this new player on the scene that's powerful, super efficient, and has everyone spooked. The entire AI industry had to respond. They couldn't just ignore it and keep doing what they were doing. Something had to change. A big pivot was about to happen. And that pivot unfolded like dominoes falling. First, you had the startups. They're always looking for an edge, right? They jumped on DeepSeek to save cash on computing so they could hire more engineers. Then, the big one, OpenAI, the industry leader, made a massive move. For the first time in 5 years, they released free open source models. And that sent a huge signal to everyone. The new focus was on smaller, faster, more efficient, right-sized AI. And it wasn't just speculation. The CEO of D-Matrix, Sid Shith, said it perfectly. You can draw a straight line from DeepSeek to what OpenAI announced. It was a direct cause and effect. DeepSeek proved that small and smart could be incredibly powerful, and the giants of the industry had no choice but to listen. OpenAI's move wasn't just some random new strategy. It was a direct answer to the challenge. So it seems like the smarter, not bigger revolution was here to stay. A new era of efficient AI. But did it actually stick? Or was this whole pivot just a brief moment of panic before everyone snapped right back to their old habits? Well, if you want an answer, just look at NVIDIA's stock. It tells the whole story. Remember that huge 17% plunge in January? Well, by June, the stock hadn't just recovered, it had completely rebounded and then just kept climbing, eventually making NVIDIA the most valuable company on the planet. The money, the market, was placing its bets, and it was betting on bigger is better all over again. And you can see the proof everywhere you look. Suddenly, OpenAI is unveiling the absolutely massive GPT-5. Meta is dumping billions upon billions into AI infrastructure. The bidding wars for AI talent are back, with salary packages hitting $100 million plus. The spending spree has returned with a vengeance. And the irony? Even DeepSeek, the company that started all this, is reportedly struggling. Their next model is delayed because of a shortage of the super expensive high-end chips that power the whole bigger is better machine. Which leads to this conclusion from Christopher Kane at Mill Pond Research. He suggests that whole initial story, the smarter not bigger revolution, it might have been, in his words, a bit of a red herring. It was a huge shock to the system for sure. But in the end, it just wasn't enough to knock the big players off their course of spending more and more and more. So that's the big question we're left with, isn't it? Was DeepSeek a real revolution that started a new chapter for efficient AI? Or was it just a powerful wake-up call, a shock that made the industry pause for a second before getting right back on that relentless treadmill towards bigger, more expensive systems? Honestly, the final chapter of that story is still being written. Look, the AI race is one of the biggest stories happening right now, and it changes by the minute. If you want to keep up with all these twists and turns, make sure you follow our page. We'll keep breaking it down for you in explainers just like this one.